You've had some serious critiques when we were talking privately about the Paul brothers, specifically Jake Paul. You said you wanted to go off on this kid. What is
Yeah,
it that you have to
man.
say about Jake Paul? What is it that is bothering you about him?
Oh man. I don't even know where to start, man. I could just start unloading on this kid. I don't know where to start, man. I think definitely. I know he made his sort of presence around him calling out Conor McGregor. I think it was. I think that's when I sort of started getting a wind of him.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of like YouTube and like been following like a lot of different like YouTubers and stuff for a while. So I've been aware of him because a lot of my favorite YouTubers kind of clown him all the time. But yeah, that's when he got a little bit more mainstream, was him trying to fight Conor McGregor after he fought Nate Robinson.
Yeah,
So
and that call out was like super vulgar from what people were saying. Like called out his wife and all that. And you know, well, like it's understandable. You want to get the attention of someone at
yeah,
like at the level of Connor, you're gonna have to come up with some wild shit.
yeah,
And that's when I sort of like I'm a huge Connor fan, all right? I'm a huge Connor fan. Just like I am with Eminem, that's just like I am a huge fan. So when he called out Conor McGregor, I stood up immediately from my chair and I was like, this guy has to go, man. I think this fucking guy has to go. And I was like, I almost
ride or
felt like
die.
I was almost gonna like call Connor up, man, pick up my phone and be like, yo, you gotta fucking get rid of this clown, but
Yeah,
he's dreaming at that point.
would you pay
And
for a fight if he fought him?
oh fuck it, I would make it my mission to be there in person, man. Like
Oh man,
I don't care what I have to, because I'm telling you, it's just like when you're a diehard fan of someone, it's like, hey, you immediately stick up for that person. And like went weeks when we didn't hear nothing from Connor, and I was getting worried. I was like, what the fuck's going on, man? And then like here, Jake Paul is continuing to do his fucking YouTube sort of publicity shit, you know,
mm-hmm.
to try to get his attention more and more. And I'm like, I was getting worried. Well, not worried, but I was sort of like frustrated. Like, why isn't Connor fucking doing something, man?
Yeah,
And then eventually Connor comes out and he says like the most boss shit ever. He actually like almost congratulates Jake Paul. And I was like, oh, like, I've heard of that kid. Like, good for him. Kind of
yeah,
saying like I'm so high, like so
yeah.
high, like it took this long to get, for it to touch my radar.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I pictured in when I first heard him kind of going at Connor. I didn't think Connor was going to respond. I mean, like if I make a diss record for Jay Z, like I just start dissing Jay Z, I don't think Jay Z is going to respond. Like
Correct.
that's obviously that's a maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but I think in the sense of like as far as fighting goes, that's like the difference between Conor McGregor and Jake Paul. It's a
Right.
similar gap. So I didn't expect him to respond at all. And then he couldn't get anybody. Apparently, I don't know this. This is obviously not 100%, but I guess he wasn't able to get the people he wanted to fight him. So he ended up getting Ben Askren. And Ben Askren was like the perfect matchup for him since he had like literally just gotten like a hip surgery and was retired for however many years. I mean, he's a world class athlete, but one of the worst strikers in all of MMA. And
Exactly.
so it
Yeah.
was like a perfect matchup for somebody who has like been training very excessively in this one form of fighting that is boxing, and fight somebody who's like worst case, like the worst boxer in all of MMA. So I mean, and he was old and whatever. So I still thought he was maybe gonna win actually, but yeah, it was pretty bad. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
anything from that fight.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like it's those kind of things where you're sticking up for, like for me, I'm sticking up for Ben Askren, and I'm like, yeah, this guy is gonna fucking knock this guy out. And as soon as he gets knocked out, you like put your phone down, and you're like, I gotta stay off social media for a couple of days.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's definitely tough. I think everybody just wants to see Jake get knocked out, and I actually give him a lot of respect in that sense that he's been able to figure out how to monetize people's hatred for him. Because before the boxing stuff, I mean, like I know like he might not have been on your radar or a lot of fight people's radar, but a lot of people in the YouTube world did not like this guy, and it's, I think it was harder. He was becoming not irrelevant, but he would just do a really shitty thing every couple of months, and that's how he would kind of get some buzz again. And eventually, all the commentator channels that kind of police YouTube and like kind of shit on people like that and make jokes on their behalf, they lose interest because it's this, you can tell he's trying for it. And so
Hmm.
I think that he already had an audience of people that really disliked him, and what it like I can't think of a better way to monetize their hatred than like the opportunity for them to see you getting knocked out.
Right.
You know, obviously then he's picking very smart fights right now to fight people that
I
he can
mean,
beat, but
yeah, it's I just don't understand what his problem is with the UFC. Like, all right, you're a boxer, all right, then stick to that. Don't start like I mean, obviously publicity is key, right?
yeah.
But like Dana White said, why don't you just fight a fucking boxer? Like that's simple, man. And I know
Yeah.
I don't like boxing. I think it's very underwhelming. But if there's one boxer root for 100% is Canelo Alvarez, Mexican boxer. I love that guy, and I know he even you could fact check me on this. I could be wrong, but he even I guess called out Jake Paul and was sort of saying like, why don't you jump in the ring with me?
Oh, I'm sure he did. I know a lot of different
It's like,
boxers did. The thing is, he doesn't want to,
yeah,
because that's you asked like, what is his problem with the UFC? I don't think he has a problem with the UFC. I think he loves the UFC because he knows that those guys. I mean, it's a different sport. A lot of people don't understand that it is a different sport. You have to worry about a lot of other things. Not to say that one is necessarily harder than the other, because sometimes like being confined to only focus on the things you do with boxing could be harder for some people. Whatever, but he basically knows that these people aren't boxers, and he has been just training with some of the world's best trainers and coaches to box. So it's like he knows if he can get somebody who is not going to be quite up to par with him boxing, but they have maybe the same level of stardom as a big UFC person might, or fighter might. Why would he risk fighting somebody that's going to beat the shit out of him in boxing? These guys have been doing it their whole life. They're going to take him easy, and that's not even disrespectful to him. That's just the truth. Like, these guys have been boxing since some of them since they're like 13. They're going to kill him if they get in the ring with him.
I mean,
But
yeah,
so if he can find somebody, who maybe is great in the UFC, maybe is great ground fighter, maybe is great at submissions and things of that nature, but they can't strike, and they don't have a great distance, or maybe they're not in the kind of stamina that you need for to go 15 rounds at boxing or whatever. That's a great fight for him, because he knows that
yeah.
they're going to bring people in. He knows it's going to get the rest of the UFC pissed, and then more people. He has the choice to fight between more people now, and he's going to get an easy win. So that's what he wants, man, and that's what I think everybody is falling victim to. It seems like Dana White's pretty much over it. So I saw
I
an
mean,
interview where he said like, stop fucking asking me. This guy calls me every day. Like, stop asking me about it. He's a joke. I guess Triller. I saw something that Jake left Triller, which was like his big thing. So I don't know if that was true or not, but I have to look into that a little bit.
did you see him when he pulled up on Dylan Dennis and he
Yes.
threw whatever? Oh my god, man! I think even Joe Rogan talks about it, kind of saying like, why would you want to fuck with the guy like Dylan, man? Like this
Yeah.
guy is a world class grappler, man. Like, can you imagine if he got his hands on Jake Paul? It's just like
Oh yeah. I
you'd
mean,
be in jail, man.
that's what even I even laughed, and it's actually like probably like the hardest I've laughed in a while was during this press conference with Ben Askren, and I still believe Ben when he said this. He was like, it's a good thing we're boxing. If I ran into Jake in an alley and I wanted to do a homicide, I could do a homicide.
Yeah.
And I've never heard someone say do a homicide, but it just cracked me up. And I believe him. I'm sure if it was like without the restrictions that boxing kind of puts on you, I don't doubt that he would have beaten him. But what do you think, like influencer celebrity boxing, like what are your thoughts on it in general? You think that it's a good thing for the sport? I know some people think it's a really bad for the sport. Other people think that it's bringing new eyes, so it's a good thing for boxing. And I'm kind of on the fence, more so leaning towards it's a good thing.
Um. So I think I'm gonna have to stick with what Dana White said. I know Dana White. I don't know if it was this last UFC pay-per-view, but he did mention that there was a lot going on when Ben Askren fought Jake Paul, given the setting, the commentating. It was just I feel like to me, I don't know boxing that much, but I feel like to me it was just an overall very weird setting. The
That it was,
commentating, the, the
100%.
commentating was annoying as fuck. Like, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Snoop Dogg
I
and
think
all that.
Snoop was the saving grace of the whole thing. The
I
rest of the guys, their only joke was that Snoop was there. They just kept joking about how he's there, and it was
um
annoying.
but in general, I think it's sort of ridiculous. I appreciate the professionalism of like watching a boxing match, and given to someone who honestly doesn't really like boxing, but I appreciate the professionalism of like when not too long ago Canelo fought Billy Joe Saunders. I think that was a huge fight, and I loved the professionalism. And then if you put this Jake Paul celebrity sort of setting next to this, it just looks very childish to me. But
I can understand that. I think childish is a good way to put it, and I think maybe that's what they're going for. I think with at least with Triller. I know when DAZN did it, when they hosted the events of like the Logan and KSI fights, those were a little bit more like professional, I guess. They were handled in a similar way. I mean, DAZN does a lot of fighting stuff. Triller, for people that don't know, and I only know this because I'm in music, it was like similar to TikTok, but I think it actually predated TikTok as an app, but then they kind of switched to try to copy TikTok. But it was like for artists, if I had a song coming out on Friday, I can upload my song on Triller and like make some videos of me dancing to it in the studio to like promo my song before. I know a lot of rappers used it. And so then they kind of transitioned into like a more of a video function when everybody thought TikTok was going to get banned. And then TikTok didn't get banned, so they were
I
like,
know that
"Fuck."
sucks.
Yeah, they were like, "Fuck, we got to do something." And then they decided to throw their hat in the ring, literally, with the boxing stuff. And Noel Miller from the TMG podcast made a great joke about how they like you could tell everybody who was like involved in that event had never like seen a boxing match before, like had never watched one, because like even the kid, like he was like, it was probably some, I think he, not to talk about a podcast on another podcast, but I believe he literally like was clowning on like the fact that there was one of the refs was GoPro'd, like he had a GoPro on his chest.
I didn't
like
even see
like
that.
what kind of, but like that had like that is somebody who has like never watched fighting, who would be like, this is a great, why has no one thought of this before, why has no one thought to put a GoPro on the rep? Because it's fucking dumb. Because
Yeah,
it doesn't add anything. And I think like even like half the shots were like beneath the ropes, and like just like these really like obscure weird shots where like, you couldn't even
yeah.
see what's going on, and you could tell it was a lot of people that maybe have filmed a lot of other things but not necessarily a boxing match, or if that's just the direction they were given from Triller. But I think they're trying to like appeal to a younger audience, and maybe they successfully did that. I thought it was funny. The whole thing was just kind of a joke to me. But I don't know. I have no idea.
I
So
mean,
we. Oh, what were you saying?
just yeah, just I saw this not because I know you mentioned the KSI and the Logan Paul. You know
Yeah.
what? It took me a while to figure out they were brothers. I know it sounds stupid, but
Oh, Logan and Jake Paul.
yeah, it took me a while. I was like, man, these guys have the same last name, and yeah, but whatever. You can shit on me that
Yeah, yeah.
later, but I don't know if you saw when they fought. I just saw this on Instagram, which it was like the funniest fucking thing. Um, there was a round where I guess KSI had punched Logan like past the bell,
Mhm.
and Jake Paul comes running in, and he runs in and storms KSI, but he stops himself at the middle of the ring. And the caption said that Jake stops himself. I thought that
Yeah.
was the
No,
funniest thing
well, that's
ever.
the thing that's interesting with Jake was like, I don't know if you saw this, but obviously Logan's fighting Floyd Mayweather
Yeah.
here in a couple of weeks, and June 6th, I think. And they had their first like press conference where they got to see each other face to face a couple weeks back, and Jake like pulled this huge stunt, like took off Floyd Mayweather's hat, like got in his face and was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I got your hat." Got like some like weirdo like fifth grade shit. I don't even know
Yeah.
how to describe it. And Floyd and his people were not playing that, so Jake ends up catching a fucking Floyd Mayweather hook to the face, and his face is bleeding, and he's sitting there like crying, going, "I got your hat, I got your hat," and it's like the funniest, like saddest, like weirdest thing ever. And I mean, again, like I understand, like great business move on his part in doing that, but like I don't understand how he's like still like unironically saying "I got your hat" after he is like holding a black eye and like is crying, literally crying, and I guess he's not allowed at the fight now.
And then
Um,
he tattooed himself, right? He tattooed himself. I
yeah,
got you. as well.
And he posted it. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was, good for him. He capitalized off the moment, but yeah, I think like he's great at capitalizing off moments like that. I don't know about fighting and whatnot, but I know Floyd Mayweather is not playing with that, and he said that he would fight both of them in the same night, and I thought that was fucking hilarious. And I wish he would, because that would be so fucking funny. Because I know he's not gonna drop Logan in one round. I know he's gonna let it play out for a minute and let everybody get a
I mean,
show.
listen, I don't like Mayweather. I don't think he's not, but again, I don't know boxing, so I can't really say. But as a person and as a fighter, I don't like him. I don't like the way he fights. He fights like Billy Joe Saunders. I just don't like the way he fights.
What
But
about the way he fights? I'm not very well versed in the realm of fighting. It's just been all over the news, so I've been slowly diving in.
well, I mean, I'm not too familiar with boxing either. I know. When it comes to mixed martial arts, you have your basic boxing techniques, right?
Mhm.
But when it comes to actually boxing, it's a whole fucking craft.
Yeah.
But I just don't like the way he fights. He's a very hit and run kind of fighter.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't really appreciate. That's why I like watching Canelo fight, because Canelo he's like a Mexican warrior. That guy does not run. He's just right there in your face. Um, and I mean, sure, he's undefeated, but I mean,
See,
he's
my thing is, I don't really. I guess maybe this is me not being really at all in the fighting scene at all, but I kind of just appreciate people that win at anything, and regardless of like the way he fights, I just think it's impressive that everybody, because he's built different than another boxer. Everybody's
mhm,
built different,
right.
literally, like physically, like height and stature and build and everything. So I think he fights the fight that his body lets him, and I think he's a lot faster than people. He's a smart guy, and from what I've seen, again, being someone who's not super well versed in fighting, it appears that yeah, he does. He kind of will jab and go, and he kind of waits for his moment to strike. He kind of chops at you the whole fight until he's ready to really take you out, and his stamina is just like impeccable, and I think that's where his biggest strength is.
But as far as if it ever happens, Mayweather and Jake Paul, you could count on me being on Floyd Mayweather's side. Like, I don't like the guy, but if you put Jake Paul in front of him, I will be cheering on Mayweather. Like,
the
he
the
just
enemy of, or the what is it, the friend of your enemy is your friend, or whatever, something like that. So
yeah.
you'll team up with him as long as he's going after Jake Paul. Hey, thanks for watching there, guy. Click right over here if you want to see that episode in its entirety, or you can click over here and subscribe to the channel, see all the other fun shit we do here. It's really up to you, guy.